We conclude tonight with Dr. Michael Antonini, who's a commissioner with the San Francisco Planning Commission, and welcome to the program.
Thanks, Arthur. Always a pleasure.
We are dealing with a lot of planning issues on this program because in San Francisco, politics is planning and vice versa, and so much is happening. I mean, it is amazing that there are, according to estimates, almost 27 to 28,000 housing units either in the planning stages, the construction stages, and so on. That's phenomenal.
It is tremendous.
And you're in the middle of it.
We're in the middle of it, and it isn't just, blue sky or something that people are thinking may happen. A lot of these units are actually under construction. I think there was an article in yesterday's Examiner, I believe, that talked about just Mission Bay alone.
Yeah.
And I believe that 2,000 of projected 8,000 were already under construction, or 2,000 were finished, another 2,000, 2,500 were under construction, and the remaining 4,000 were planned. So if the demand remains where it is, I think you're actually going to see this happen.
That's also for the first time being brought up, and that is with about 5,000 to 6,000, actually 4,700 actually under construction. And the one of them, the green building,
I think it's Artera. Yeah.
We're proud to say that their units were only going to be $700,000, $100,000 less than the average of their competition.
Yes, that was pretty amazing.
Now, how long, now again, these are condominiums, and another article has brought up that whenever you buy a condominium, you have homeowners' dues, maintenance, capital, future capital resources.
You own it.
You own it, and those can be as much as $200 or $300 a month.
Exactly.
Over your mortgage payment.
Right.
When does this reach overbuilding?
Well, that's an interesting question. We have seen in this last year, we've seen somewhat of a cooling of the market, but strangely enough, the place where it's cooled least is San Francisco. And in fact, we've actually had an increase in prices in every month that's been shown, whereas other parts of the Bay Area have begun to decrease. So, but eventually, will it reach a point?
What did they tell you as a planning commissioner in terms of demand and supply and where we are with this huge explosion of construction? Are we reaching a point where they're going to be competing? There's not enough buyers out there for all these condominiums?
Well, I guess as long as sponsors come before us and they feel that the demand is there, our job is to make sure that what is built is proper and make sure that the amenities are there and that it works.
It's not your business then to worry about whether they can sell them.
I don't think that's our place to do that. I mean, we don't want to see vacant buildings, but I think that at this point there's every reason to believe that this is probably going to consider.
But there's a positive result from buildings not selling. And that is the price might actually go down.
Price may actually go down.
They might become more affordable.
That's the beautiful thing about the market. There is a way to sell them, and it's to drop the prices. And also you've got a world-class city that attracts people from all over the world. It attracts San Francisco empty nesters, who we find from some of the statistics are selling their homes and moving into these things. Many people from other parts of the Bay Area who've always wanted to be in San Francisco. Their families are growing. It's a perfect opportunity to them to be close to the cultural and sporting activities and entertainment and dining activities that they like so much.
But it necessarily brings into focus the discussions we've had on this program about the politics and the conflict of the changing demographics that help others and hurt others and so on and so forth. It seems to me that the board, who is in charge of planning, your commissioner or the board?
Well, that's a very good question. I think historically the Planning Commission would pass judgment on projects, and once in a while, an extraordinary case, it was challenged by the Board of Supervisors. And in the last few years, this particular Board of Supervisors has a very high percentage of our decisions have been challenged in one form or another. And
overturned?
Well, not always, no. I think in many cases they've been sustained, but I think part of this is a product of district elections, because you can have as few as 5 supervisors, I believe, that can bring forth a challenge. So there's a lot of trading between districts, and as a good faith gesture, one supervisor will say, please co-sponsor with me so we can bring this item because I have an interested party who wants to challenge it. And they end up doing it. Many of these do, in fact, they sustain our decisions, but you know, some are actually
What
overturned.
percent do you think, after thorough analysis, thorough discussion by the Planning Commission and the staff, have been overturned by the board?
You know, that would be really hard to say because you have, you know, so many different
Is there one in
situations.
particular that you're disappointed with?
You know, I can't really put my finger on any one particular one, but I can say that there have been certain ones that, you know, probably I felt that I would have preferred if it had gone the other way. I also felt that a lot of times it's duplicate process because everything is repeated a second time, but that's the way things
so
are.
what is a supervisor like McGoldrick and Maxwell stopping projects outside their district, like the Trinity Plaza, stalling that, which fortunately seems to be on its way back to life? How do you, as commissioners, view these supervisors who are not even in the district stopping these projects for their own personal, either ideological or whatever reason?
Well, there are a lot of theories about why Trinity had to come back, or a small one of the entitlements that we, you know, passed out of 7 or 8, I believe, had to come back for a second time, and that was the general plan conformity and the mapping, which we did again last week, and it had the same result as we had the first time. And it is a little bit disheartening because, you know, it only adds to the process, adds to the cost, and you know, a lot of times rumor has it that some of the reasons are political, and that's
well, Randy
the
Shaw was
nature
on the
of
program last week, and he actually said he was on recently and said that it was definitely a vendetta because the project is in Supervisor Daley's district, and he supported the opponent of Supervisor Maxwell. It's a shame. This project, and viewers have to understand that Trinity doesn't exist right now, but it's a huge project, almost 2,000 units.
It's a tremendous project, and it's like the perfect storm. It's only because of the situation with Angelo San Giacomo and the family that are old school Italian. I mean, you know, they buy things, they don't sell them. They probably pay off all the debt, and they have they're in a situation that no one else could probably do this. If corporations tried to do it, they'd have shareholders.
Well, actually, you know, I'll tell you something, Michael. The number one REIT in this country is Wells Fargo's. Wells Fargo REIT. It's the several $billion they invest every year, and they buy all of their property without any loans. So Angelo San Giacomo, who, by the way, like myself, I'm half Genovese Italian. That is a principle. Loans and mortgages are to be avoided,
Right.
and Wells Fargo understands that. But he has been, and I hope to have him on the program. We invited him to be on the program. Here was a project I think he wanted to build. He wants to build this.
That's the other part of the formula, is that he wanted to do it in San Francisco. That he could easily have bailed out and taken the money and invested
And here's
somewhere
a battle, a political battle. District elections was supposed to make government more representative. That supervisors not in that district can stop that project, and it came close to, I think, actually failing, because it could have come a point where the developer would have said, that's it. Yeah. You don't want 400 new rent control units.
Permanently rent control
units. You don't want us to take care of the 700 people who are living there now. And
15% affordable. Which they've now agreed to. The terms were that whatever it was at the time it finally passed, and it's gone from 12 to 15%. So of the remaining units, that will be below market rate. And I think it's a tremendous project.
You know, it also brings up something that's interesting. A lot of people criticize Supervisor Daley, but in a way, he's almost a master negotiator in that he uses the media and he uses a demonized exterior to actually be a deal maker in the old sense of what city councilmen and mayors used to do and councilwomen used to do, and that is bout with the developer but get something for the city, but allow that project to go through. How often has Chris Daley stepped in to save a project or had interaction with the planning department to make it possible for projects to go ahead?
Well, there have been a number of them, and though, you know, Daley and I may not agree on a lot of things politically, I will agree that he's a pragmatist. Fourth and Freelawn project that was the RBA project through Joe Cassidy, which he was involved with, and Randy Shaw also.
How many units was that?
Oh, I'm
About
not
40,
sure. I'm going to say 400 or 500 units. I
Okay.
may be wrong on those figures. It's finished now. It's called the Palms.
Okay.
It's selling and purportedly selling at one of the more reasonable in today's market amounts of some of the projects that are out there. So, and of course the case is true on Trinity too.
That Chris Daly was in the middle of that.
Well, he was able to broker the deal. I think he's a pragmatist in some of these real estate things, and you know, obviously he gets things for his constituency, and much as Randy had said last week on your show, I mean, they take the position that we can continue to build market rate housing as long as we get things for our constituencies, as opposed to some people who say we should have no more market rate housing, only
But there are people like that.
There are some on that side.
That what I have the deepest concern is that Supervisor Maxwell seems to fall into the trap of supporting those who would like to stop nothing but very low income housing in the eastern neighborhoods.
Well, this is the whole eastern neighborhoods thing, and there are going to be two key issues that are going to come up. The first is this premise, and this is why this quasi-moratorium has occurred, that you can take approximately 20% of the city and only build housing tailored to the income levels of the people that are living there now, and no market rate housing. And this is an interesting premise in a free society. I'm not quite sure how that fits in.
Well, and the new head of the RBA, Sean Cregan, was here, and nothing will be built under those circumstances.
No, it won't happen.
So in effect, Sophie Maxwell is supporting those who are saying, let's just freeze that area, and it would seem then that would be just fine to Sophie Maxwell's constituents on Potrero Hill. So there may be a political reason why
well, you know, I can't really, you know, conjecture on the various
But it's a shame
things
that
go
district
on here.
elections has allowed different supervisors
well,
to have
I
such
think
power.
on a more, rather than delving into individuals, I would
I
say
understand that.
that
I'm making my own opinion.
eastern neighborhood situation, the other key issue here that's, and you're going to hear a lot of this because this is going to come before us in the next few months, and this is the industrial protection or the PDR question, and that is, if you zone and restrictively zone for industry, will industry stay?
Well, they're moving out.
Well, they're moving out anyway, and
Yeah.
you and I know that, but there are those who will argue that they're
They're-
moving out because of increased land
We've just
values.
lost two very old family industrial companies to South San Francisco and Brisbane. We only have a couple minutes left, 1 minute actually, but I see that the Pacific Legal Foundation is actually going to start filing lawsuits against what they call, what the Planning Commission or those in your world call inclusionary housing, that it's a taking. And do you think I think they're going to actually target San Francisco. Do you think that that could have an impact on all of these deals that are made that require inclusionary housing, or do they have a leg to stand on legally?
Well, I don't know if they have a leg to stand on. I think some of the flaws of inclusionary housing is that at the present time, I believe the level of income has been dropped somewhat lower. And unfortunately, the group that's leaving the city the most is the middle class. And if you have a couple of young people coming out of college, typically they're starting in jobs from 30 to 35,000. If two of those live together and try to buy a unit, they are making too much money to be included in the inclusionary housing. And I think that some way we have to address that group.
So what you're saying is that what you wind up is those who can afford the $1 million condos, and those who can afford to be in low-income areas.
Right, and that's exactly what's happening and has happened for quite a few years. And you know, until we find a solution to try to somehow keep our city employees and various public safety officials and teachers in San Francisco, we're going to continue to lose them.
Hey, Dr. Antonini, thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. Thanks, Arthur.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Visit our website at www.sfunscripted.com.